Although, Dan, if I'm the president yesterday, I saved the yield curve from inverting. I come in, the market's at 500 points, I pulled back. He barely got, a couple of hours of positive response before today just came and wiped that all off. So if you're the president worried about this recession signal and what may be happening, what do you do now?
First, I would say that it's not really trade, I think, that's driving their volatility and fragility in the economy. It's the fact that we've had years and years of easy money policy. There's too much liquidity in the system, and people are just worried that at some point that house of cards collapses. Now, having said that, there's no question that the president's trade policy, I think, has been bad for the economy. And I thought it was interesting that Wilbur Ross basically admitted that it is consumers who suffer when you have these taxes on international trade. So I desperately hope that somehow we have some sort of deal, and hopefully it's a deal that liberalizes markets, not puts restrictions and cronyism into them.
Right, but I just find it hard to believe that China is going to just say, sure, yeah, no, we're going to liberalize, no problem. I mean, so if the president, going back to the question, is worried about the market's decline, is worried about a recession being around the corner in time for his reelection, I mean, do you expect him to maybe delay all of those 10% tariffs? Are we talking about other kinds of stimulus measures he could pull out of his hat? What should we be thinking about as possibilities?
Well, unfortunately, the easy money policies are already baked into the cake. I hope that Trump doesn't go up to the Capitol Hill and agree to some pork-filled boondoggle infrastructure plan or something like that. It didn't work for Obama. It won't work any better for Trump. So unfortunately, there's no substitute for just good long-run policy. Good long-run policy is good short-run policy. And that means, yes, continue with tax reform, continue with deregulation, stop spending so much money, and back away from all these trade wars, which are, I think, compounding the damage of easy money policy by the Fed.
Stephanie, ironically, what's happening in bond markets is increasing the calls in some corners. People say we should issue 50 or 100-year debt right now, basically for free. Use it to fund infrastructure, and what's the problem? I mean, do you think that is likely to become more of a consensus type of view in Washington?
Yeah, I think that clearly the president, who only a year ago, less than a year ago, was a huge proponent of trying to rein in federal spending. He just, signed a deal a couple weeks ago that increased federal outlays by about 4% over current levels over the next couple of years. This deal to raise the budget caps and avert this debt ceiling fiasco. And so I think he's absolutely trending towards, I love this, pork-filled boondoggle. I think there's going to be a lot of spending potentially our way out of this.
In what form should we be looking for? Infrastructure?
Yeah, so I think the first fight we're going to see is the one coming up on federal funding. That hasn't actually happened yet. So the current fiscal year funding expires September 30th. So I would expect to see a little bit of a delay, but there's going to be conservatives trying to rein that in, and I don't think that will happen. I think at least at the current levels. And then I think an infrastructure package is absolutely something that Congress is talking about, and depending on how the economy is doing, I think the president could help usher it over maybe next summer or so.
I think I see a tear in Dan's eye, slowly emerging. But let me ask you, Dan, about the Fed, because the president has already made his frustration very clear, thinking they're too tight. I don't know if you heard our last discussion. There are multiple people saying that the Federal Reserve needs to cut rates a lot from here, and that's what markets are pricing in. So does he turn to the Fed and increase the pressure there if that's the ultimate quote-unquote solution here?
Well, I don't think it's the solution, but I think that Trump is going to ratchet up the pressure even more. And what frustrates me about this issue is that Republicans were criticizing easy money policies when Obama was in the White House, and now a lot of them have just conveniently done a 180, and now they're saying, oh, we need easy money policy with Trump in the White House. And I just don't think you get long-run growth. I mean, we see from Japan, you don't get long-run growth by simply keeping monetary conditions easy. I don't like Keynesian monetary policy. I don't like Keynesian fiscal policy. If that approach worked, nations like Italy would be economic superstars.
Right. No, I know what you're saying, that, look, the best that we've seen growth and productivity look in the last couple of years, he had the big tax cut act. There's been a lot of deregulation happening. Is that all losing momentum, though?
Oh, there's no question that if you look at the spending bill that we just had, the commitment to free markets and limited government, well, certainly it's not there in the Democratic Party. They're going hardcore socialist, but it's evaporating in the Republican Party. It's sort of like these guys, they ran for office saying that Washington's a cesspool. Now that they're here, they've decided it's a hot tub.